Welcome to another episode of the Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast. The following is a conversation with Erich Archer, an Emmy-winning TV producer, AI innovator, and storytelling expert. With a background in sports, music, and reality television, Erich has entered the cutting-edge world of AI-driven media, reshaping how stories are told and experienced. I'm your host, Sid Ben Salah. Today we'll explore how AI transforms storytelling, its impact on sports narratives, and the future of digital content creation. Let's dive in. Erich, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Sid. It's great to be here and chatting with you today.
What first drew you to storytelling, and how did your early experiences in sports, music, and reality TV shape your creative vision?
Well, one of my earlier memories that got me into this space was when I was in high school. My parents got tickets at an auction. They won these tickets to take my brother and I to MTV and go behind the scenes to see how a TV show was made at MTV. I got to go to New York, and this was peak MTV years, and it was just a very exciting thing to see this production in the center of Times Square and this very sort of magic center of the universe feeling. And I think it really woke up something in me that was like, wow, this is an exciting environment, and I like what I see here with all the cameras and creativity and whatnot. And then my freshman year of college, I got a camcorder for Christmas.
Mhm.
And that really changed everything because this was in the days of, like, I don't know if you remember the Jackass era when they were, the group of friends would have one guy with a camera, and it was just it was the first time where you were kind of bringing it out and about with you. And so that became a toy of mine. And then within a year, I had switched my major to become a film studies major, and it was cameras for the next 25 years. Um, I really fell in love with the ability to tell stories with technology and through cameras, and sort of went on to become a camera operator professionally. And I had played sports all my life. I was an athlete
Mhm.
first, every kind of sport, primarily soccer, and played 4 years in college. And so in college, it was all about sports and film studies. That's what I was doing, and then I moved to New York and got into professional television production, and just luckily and by total chance worked with a company that had a lot of sports production
Mhm.
going on. We were doing the X Games. We were doing X Games stuff for ESPN. We were doing Major League Soccer stuff. We were doing all kinds of alternative sports and snowboarding documentaries and all kinds of great sports stuff. And so I was just able to, blend those interests of mine during those years, which was a lot of fun, and see some really high level sports events and all of that. Um, so yeah, and now, now I'm in a completely different environment, which is it couldn't be a smaller market, this very hyper local public television space, and we're doing all of the regional, or we used to do all of the regional high school sports and things like that. And now that has sort of splintered into different vendors and things. But I'm also involved now at this super hyper local level and had some experience there as well. So that's sort of where sports and my interest in television production have merged over the years.
Interesting. Could you share, Eric, a moment in your career that changed your approach to storytelling?
Well, the approach is always changing. And that's what I've been telling people about how I got into AI. AI was at the beginning just the next technology that I thought was going to change my ability to tell stories. Um, in my career, I've seen a number of shifts come through that have changed things pretty
Mhm.
dramatically. Like, moving from um, analog to digital and high definition. And then when cell phones came on the scene and were shooting video, and then some of the higher end tools became more consumer level, like drones and gimbals and things that really enabled individual creators in new ways, and YouTube and social media and all that blowing up and turning everyone into creators. And having to navigate all this as someone who's running a media company, I'm always having to look at these trends early and figure out how they apply to the work that we do and how I'm going to onboard them into the organization I run, and use them. And so that's what AI technology was to me in the beginning a couple of years ago, was just, okay, I'm hearing a lot about this, I'm seeing a lot about it. I better start to figure it out, and started to take some courses and certification programs and things like that and learn it. And then Midjourney and ChatGPT came on the scene around the same time. And ChatGPT was a clear superpower in
Mm.
my mind, as and Midjourney represented a similar superpower on the image generation side, which is, the space that I'm in, visual storytelling. So when it was clear to me that I could generate any kind of image, really opened my eyes to the profound shift of this round of technology. It's clear to me now, having been pretty obsessed with it for the past couple of years, that it's going to change absolutely everything, and all of our workflows and our tools and our business models and everything. And so it would be hard to sort of say now what's changing it, because it's changing all
Mm.
of the time. That's sort of like, you have to bake that change into what you're doing
Yeah.
now.
Eric, 2 weeks ago, we all seen out of nowhere the Chinese DeepSeek came to life. What do you make of that, Eric?
Well, there's a number of ways
Mm.
people are looking at that, from the privacy
Mm.
concerns, from the, you know, did it blow up all of our assumptions around what it would take to make the next rounds of this technology, and all of this power we've been told has to be supplied, and all of that stuff. Um, it's not really my
Mm-hmm.
lane. I certainly don't consider myself an expert, but it does seem now possible that OpenAI will not be the runaway winner, at least in every area. There will be these other
Mm-hmm.
startups and models and things. I mean, they had like $6 million or something,
Yeah, yeah, which
and
is,
you
there
know,
is a big question mark in that regard. You
yeah.
know,
So it's like, how do you take it all at
yeah.
face value? I think there's still some dust
Mm.
to settle
Mm. Yeah,
on it. So yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in a don't let anything surprise you
yeah.
mindset. Things are going to leapfrog at a pretty wild pace for the foreseeable
Yeah,
future, I think.
I think competition is good. How they did it, it's a big open question. The 6 million, you might argue, yeah, there is a gray area there. But this remind me when the solar panel came in, they were quite expensive in Europe and even in the US. And suddenly China started to invest heavily, and the prices has dropped considerably. Not sure if we can use the same example, but in my opinion, I think from now on is going to be full throttle in terms of open AI and whatever it will hit us the next 12 or 24 months.
Yeah, I mean, OpenAI certainly isn't slowing down. The
Mm,
agents and the deep research, and I
mm,
mean, they're building quite the
yeah.
ecosystem.
But then we've
It's
seen 10 days ago or 2 weeks ago this big announcement in the White House, 500 billion US dollars investment in this area. So looks like there is a race for
we're gonna
for whoever will lead the space. But I think we should embrace it with some kind of positivity and yeah, because like you said earlier, using AI, it does help, it does improve quality, productivity, etc., etc. So let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly valid concerns about AI, and all
Mm,
of the. I mean, there's a million concerns, but as you said, there's a lot of reason to be hopeful and
mm,
optimistic about the good that it does
yeah.
present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, many lenses.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and when it comes to privacy, they will figure it out. At the end of the day, same story with TikTok. So there is always a little controversy out there, but
yeah,
at the end of the day, there is always a solution. Yeah. And on that, Eric, based on what you said earlier, what inspired you to shift from traditional media to AI driven storytelling?
Well, I have a pretty active inner creative. I have ideas that go beyond my day job, where I'm very fortunate to be able to still
Mm,
be creative 9 to 5. Um, and, and I'm grateful for that. But I have lots of ideas and things that I would love to make, and it suddenly feels like that's a possibility in a more real way than ever before. By a 10, 100x multiple. I think the bar is just moved on what the individual creative can do at home on their couch with a
mm,
laptop. And I'm fortunate that I have had a couple decades of practice with using visual assets to tell stories. And now this technology shows up that allows me to generate these assets almost
mhm,
instantly, as opposed to the old way, which is extremely challenging. The logistics of any production, even a small one, to bring a crew on location with equipment. I mean,
yeah, it's heavy.
it's a lot, no matter what. And there just is not no there. There's just not a you know hourly shoot. Every shoot is a day minimum. That's the old
Mm,
standard. Hey, can you make me a video? Yeah, well, I'll need several days blocked off for that. But now, no cameras required in maybe 7 out of 10
mm,
cases. Where if I'm doing a 30-second commercial and it's fast paced and I don't need my video clips to be longer than 2, 3 seconds, I can get away with AI shots in a lot of those cases now, whether it's products, food, even people now. It's further away from things like feature films where you need that human
mm,
emotion and that nuance and those sorts of things. But right now, you can do so much as an individual. Like for me, I like the idea of, hey, maybe I could make some extra money at night or on the weekends. Maybe I could whip up an ad for somebody that I couldn't have before. That's a pretty nice opportunity if you have a little ability to do this kind of thing. But even if you're a beginner, you can start to think about how to add value to your organization in ways that you hadn't
mm.
before, or just pursue your own learning and passion projects in more real ways. If dusting off that idea book that we all have, I think, to some degree, and thinking, maybe I really could write that book or make that comic strip or make the social media content that I haven't been able to make, or put my mood board together for this idea I have, or fill in some of the knowledge gaps where I'm not proficient. Like I don't, maybe I'm an
Mm.
artist and I'm not good at business, or the other way around. Um, or you're not, maybe you're an average writer and you benefit from being a above average writer. Um, Things like that are just that's all possible now. And so it's just very exciting to me because I have this advantage of knowing how to do this stuff to begin with
Mhm.
regular video. But now I can just snap my fingers and make a video, which is just an incredible shift if you think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah. I rely on that from a logistic point of view. I've seen it firsthand when I was hosting major events, bringing on site TV production. It doesn't matter if it's a live TV production or post production. It's a massive logistic, manpower, you name it, plus the time, cost as well. And when we talk about the production, you have OB tracks, minimum two, a crew between 25 to 40 people, all sorts of cameras, all sorts of positions, scaffoldings. It's just a nightmare, you know. And you pray that nothing goes wrong when we go live. And now, in a short period of time, things has changed completely the um, from the size of the cameras, the quality of the cameras, the everything, everything. It's incredible. And when exactly, Eric, you realize AI have major impact on content creation? Was it recently or was it a long time ago?
It was at the start of 2024 when I was
Mm-hmm.
exploring whether or not I was going to make my first generative AI short video. I was thinking about it a lot because I'd been playing with Midjourney and generating images that were cool. And I was like, I should really I should make
Hmm.
something. This is what I do. I need to make something. What's it going to be? And when I finally identified my subject matter, it was I was going to make something based on an ancestor of mine, and I had one old little blurry, like wallet-sized photo of this guy, or a couple of them, I
Hmm.
should say. Um, and when I took that photo and I brought it into Midjourney, the
Hmm.
image generation platform, again, I had this wallet-sized little photo, fuzzy
Hmm.
digital photo, and I took it into Midjourney, and I could show you the picture, but I made this, 16 by 9, black and white, cinematic documentary looking image of him that looked exactly like him in the 1800s attire he would have worn, in the location he would have been in. It looked like a beautiful film photograph of this guy for real, and I was like
Wow.
blown away, just blown away. It looked like the most incredible composition, depth of color, I should say depth of black and white, just like facial
Hmm.
features. And I was like, man, this looks unbelievable. And if I can do this, now I know for sure I can make something at a minimum that looks like Ken Burns
Hmm.
style, just pretty picture after pretty picture with a story behind it. I can do that. I know I can do that because I
Hmm.
look at this picture, you know. And so that's what
And
I did.
and Eric, the process, is it complicated, or from, let's say, from an idea to the creative side to maybe optimizing or working slightly a little bit to optimize your prompt? How does it work?
It is not super complicated, but it is hard to
Hmm.
do. It requires a lot of willingness to wrestle with these
Hmm.
new tools because I think a lot of the promotion around these new tools would have you believe that all of the outputs that they're going to give you are at the level of what they're showing you in these ads. And that's really not the case. It's getting better and better and better at a rapid pace, but still it's very cherry picked what you're seeing versus what it takes to
Hmm.
make these things. So it's hard, but basically what you're doing is you start with your idea and then you want to try to get your idea into a
Hmm.
shot list,
Sorry, Eric, do you start
right?
with the script, or do you have, let's say, idea slash script in your head, and then you wrestle with the technology and you see where it goes, and then you pivot or you change, or?
It's both for me. Some of my ideas have been original and some have been handed to me and said, execute
Hmm.
this idea. And so they're both good exercises to try to learn, okay, I have to make this one to this brand standard. Like it cannot not be to the brand standard, which is a high standard. When you're talking about a serious brand, they care about all of the colors and the fonts and the snapshots of their products and the things they've
Hmm.
always cared about. But now you're working with this very unreliable tool set. And so how do you get to what they want with the specificity? That's a challenge. And then there's the original ideas where it's like, okay, I have this idea. What would it take to bring this idea to life in a realistic way? And then just kind of systematically breaking that into the production system. So I will take an idea like that to ChatGPT and just start to workshop it with ChatGPT as if it's a thought partner. I have this idea and here are some images, start to build like an image mood board of reference material, Google image search, whatever you're pulling from. I like to use a platform called Whimsical that has an infinite whiteboard where you can just stick stuff up there and you can start to build your shot
Hmm.
sequence. Let's say you want to do a 1 minute suspense piece. You could go to ChatGPT and say, look, I've never made a suspense piece before, but I have this idea. Who are the great suspense directors and what should I know before I get started about the shot sequence that creates suspense? Does it have to go from wide down to really tight to build that like intensity, or what don't I
Hmm.
know? And then you build your shot list. And then from your shot list, you start to just go generate the shots now. Okay, this 2 minute or this, let's say it's a 30-second piece, you might need 20 shots because you're going to cut them all down. You're going to, get these 20 images from pick your favorite image
Mm-hmm.
generator and then make those images into video clips with some of the platforms that do that, of which you can take your pick. There
Mm-hmm.
are a number. And then you have video clips as you would have if you went and shot them with a camera. And you can generate all your audio.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, you can go to Udio and generate music based on a
Mm-hmm.
prompt and say, like I'm making a video about skateboarding and graffiti. So I want those sound effects mixed in with the song that is kind of like this song I like. And it'll
Yes.
give you that song. Like,
Yeah.
unbelievable. Or, I need sound effects of graffiti cans spraying or whatever, and just immediately have that and go work with it. Um, and so everything now is sort of a creative brief because you could look at a page of a textbook or a historical plaque on a wall and think, all right, I can ingest the imagery related to this, I can ingest the information related to this, and start to workshop it with ChatGPT, and then make the imagery I need, make that imagery come to life, and then I need to learn how to edit.
Yeah.
Editing is still, you know, if you're trying to tell a unique story, you need to be doing the editing yourself because it's nuanced and personal and
Yeah.
everything. And so you still have to know how to do that. And just as an example of the challenge that I was talking about, I had to make 4,000 images for a 2-minute piece, of which I used
Mm-hmm.
62
Mm-hmm.
in the end. So, it's a lot of work because you're going to get all kinds of weird, distorted stuff back. You're going to have trouble with consistency. You've got to get better at these tools to get the images you want from the prompts that you
Mm.
have created, Um, so if you're willing to wrestle through every stage, you'll
Yeah.
ultimately get there. But it will take a lot of willpower today to get from A to Z if you haven't
Mm-hmm.
done it before. Um, but for me, I can whip something up in
Mm.
no time now out of
Yeah.
thin air, which
And
is exciting.
Eric, 3, 4, 5 years ago, would you ever project or envision that you will be doing what you're doing now?
No, no. I was very grateful to be working in television
Mm-hmm.
at all. Still, 20 something years after I started trying to do so, I'm
Mm-hmm.
still doing it. And I get to be creative every day, and that's fantastic. But like any job, there's parts of me that go beyond the 9 to 5. Um, that I've always had all these ideas for productions. That's just how I've been thinking this whole time. But I've never really, until recently, I just assumed, well, those are nice, but what I'm going to be able to execute is what I'm doing now with this very sort of traditional style, local short form stuff, which is good. But like, it never occurred to me that I would be creating at the level I am and will be again. Yeah, I got out of school, a film studies major,
Mm-hmm.
25 years ago, and only the past year was paid for the first time for an original piece of video.
Wow.
It has never happened to me before um, until last year, and it was an AI
Yeah.
film. It was, hey, do you have an idea? We want to give you some
Mm-hmm.
money to execute your idea. That had never happened before. So
Interesting
it
time.
was amazing. Yeah, yeah. It's you know, I'm excited about it. I think at least for the well, for all of our individual creators, this is an exciting
Mm-hmm.
time. These tools give you potential you did not have a couple years
Yeah.
ago.
Yeah. And how is AI changing the way stories are created and consumed?
Well, AI is changing a lot at the pre-production stage that we were just kind of talking about, where pre-production is a lot about research and rigor and um, concepting and mood boarding and all of that stuff. And these tools are phenomenal for that. I mean, ChatGPT as a pre-production thought partner, you can't beat it. I've got all these logistics to think about. I've got this concept to bring to earth. I've got people I need to communicate with, and on and on and on. And ChatGPT can be right there to help you do that better,
Mm.
faster, you know. Um, and then there are a number of post-production workflows that changed pretty quickly. I would say that's where things changed first, is like, okay, now instead of coming back from a day of shooting with a long set of transcriptions that we'll have to go through manually to figure out the sound bites that we want to put in the video,
Mhm.
now we just take that transcription, run it through Claude, and say, okay, I need a soundbite that is an emotional closer, and it will give it to you with the time code, or give me a draft of a script here that's got the who, what, when, where, why, and some emotion, and 30 seconds
Mm.
long. And it's like, okay, well, here's 6 sound bites for you in their time code. And it's like, well, that just saved me a day or
Yeah,
two every project, like,
which is
whoa.
massive.
Um, yeah. And then there's also like little tactics and
Mm.
tools, and a lot of the, like, Adobe and Canva, they're adding a lot of
Hmm.
things, like extending your B-roll. Like, oftentimes you'll wish you had another second or two on a
Mm.
clip, and now it'll just generate that second or two for you
Yes,
based on the
yeah.
clip. Or like it will cut a music track down to the running time of your
Hmm.
video automatically. That used to take
Forever, yeah.
forever. You got a 25-second video and a 1-minute song, and you got to cut that song down to 20 whatever
Yeah.
seconds. That
Mm.
stunk. And now you just drag it. AI just does it for you. It's
Yeah,
like, oh
yeah.
my God.
And on that, do you think AI generated content can match the emotional depth of human created stories?
No, I think the human brings that to the
Mm.
table. You have to inject that into
So
the
we
work
become the
through
we
the
become the
tools.
operator that dictate
Yeah.
what kind of outcome we want, or
Yeah. I liken it to uh, being a chef and walking into a
nice.
grocery store, and you can kind of pick the ingredients that you
Hmm.
want. And if you are skilled, you can whip up something with just about anything.
Hmm.
And you can have a strong point of view if you want, and you can stay in a narrow lane if you want, or you could explore the whole store. But some people are cooks, some people are chefs, some people are Michelin star chefs. But I think these things are giving us these ingredients. Um, all of us, we all have this access now. It's
Mm.
wild.
Yeah, I like the example of a chef. Yeah, I like it because anyone can cook, anyone can go to the grocery store and get the ingredients and follow a recipe, but not everyone can end up with the a three-star Michelin quality. Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But that doesn't matter. I mean, there's still so much nutrition, low-hanging
Hmm.
fruit, however you want to continue the analogy, for people that don't care to be video producers or any of that. Like, there's just still so much general purpose support you can find from these
Mm.
tools, no matter what you're doing.
Yeah.
We all have to cook, right?
Yes.
We
Yeah.
all we all have to use these
and
ingredients.
and Eric, the way you learn, the way you've been taught about TV production, the next generation, how does it look for them in terms of learning and getting into the TV production industry?
It's pretty amazing. I mean, I have 4 little kids. The oldest
Mm.
is 11, and the 11, 9, and 7-year-old are all creating content now with iPads and iMovie and
Hmm.
ChatGPT, Dolly. My 11-year-old is not just writing a book, but like learning how to publish one with ChatGPT. You know, just last night we were learning together about that. He's showing me his generative
Wow.
imagery that will accompany his story, and we've worked on how to make him be the
Hmm.
writer, not
Hmm.
ChatGPT. And my daughter has made all of her lemonade stand merch with AI, and like, it's pretty incredible. I mean, they're raised on these video games like Minecraft. That's like you know, I want to get my Minecrafter Unreal Engine so that he can learn how to build worlds like the graphics pros. And I literally was at a computer store, like, what kind of computer
Mm.
hardware does Unreal Engine need for my 11-year-old? And he was like, oh, that's a serious machine. I'm like, okay, maybe I'm ahead of myself here, but um, it's pretty empowering, I guess, is the point that, like, little kids now can get their hands on things and make. They can. My son can make stuff without me.
He's fully
Like
independent.
he can
Yeah.
figure it out.
Mm.
He's not even a
Yeah.
teenager. It's pretty incredible. That being said, I do think life experience and subject matter expertise matter a great deal. If you're trying to do it and compete doing it professionally, I think those things matter because they develop your voice,
Yeah.
you know, and you can be really proficient with the tools, but the tools are getting easier and easier, which means everyone's going to be relatively proficient, which means your voice needs to be the thing that's developed more than anything. And
Mm.
that takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. We've seen last year and even 2 years ago the pushback on AI within the movie industry. Which is, in one hand, we understand that everyone is concerned, from content creator, from everything basically. Having AI getting involved within the industry, people are scared they will lose their jobs or it will not be as authentic as it used to be. How do you balance using AI tool while maintaining the authenticity of storytelling?
Um, it's a good question, and it's probably the hardest part, because without when you just generate something, it doesn't have any
Mm.
emotion. Um, you have to start to really figure out, well, what kinds of compositions and colors and sequences and different music and layering of elements, how does that bring out emotion? How does my scripting and storytelling and the context um, grip people? What are the things that make that happen? And then can you use these tools to do that? So I think team quality teams and talented individuals will be able to use these tools to generate emotional
Hmm.
content. But there will also be a flood of really visually stunning stuff without a whole lot of story or emotion because it's easy to just spit it out. But to combine the elements in a compelling way that cuts through, it still has to you know rely on excellent storytelling.
Yeah. And let's talk about the application of AI within the sports industry. Can AI powered storytelling enhance fun experience in sports?
Oh, I imagine in a lot of ways. Some I've thought about, and probably a
Hmm.
million I haven't. The way that I look at it is, where are the stories that sports has, and sports is an endless uh bucket of stories, right? Like,
Yeah.
they're everywhere with every athlete, every team. And so what are the stories, and then how now can we use these tools to bring those out? For example, I was working with one company that does a lot of work with
Hmm.
higher ed. And I said, well, what if we looked at all the college mascots and we started to build out their worlds and their stories? Because that's IP, essentially, that they're sitting on, that they haven't had the production budget to do anything with. They wouldn't have done that before. But now, if they called me and said, hey, we want to do a episodic series about the mascot on our
Hmm.
YouTube channel, or whatever, then that type of thing is possible. And so there are just uh, so many ways you can go with that storytelling now, that you can generate any kind of visual. So I think a lot of just applying creativity to the IP that you
Mm.
have uh, would be what interests me. Obviously, all the analytics and the number crunching and the scouting and the game breakdown and all of that stuff, AI will be amazing for those kinds of things too. It's just not really the area that I'm in.
Yeah, yeah. Because we've seen in the sports industry, we started to use the 2D technology. Then it moved to 3D. Then it moved to virtual reality. Then we moved to wearable headsets. Then, we've seen it all. And now with AI, from your point of view, do you see AI being used for personalized sports content and interactive engagement?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, there's so much possible with the buy-in of a team or a
Hmm.
player. If you wanted to turn them into a brand with content, I think then you could do that all day long. I mean, I think you see it with like what Ryan Reynolds is doing with Wrexham. They've really leveraged content through their episodic series and social media content and ads and everything, and leveraged it so smartly to raise in popularity, and then the team starts doing better and the crowd starts showing up and really drives a lot of
Mm.
sales. And so I think there's some really interesting examples out there of you know clever use of creativity and content around sports IP.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I spoke earlier about resistance to AI. How do you address skepticism from media professionals about AI's role?
Are you asking specifically about like within
Yeah.
my industry and the people
Yeah.
that are skeptics? I mean, I get it. I have so many friends in the production industry. I've been in it in New York, LA, and Boston for 20 something years now. And I feel for the people who are on the chopping block for one reason or another. Maybe their main thing was like, they're a director of photography and they have a lot of food clients. Like, man, I don't know if they're going to keep calling
Hmm.
like, and that's scary. I have a good friend of mine is a professional actor, and he's like, you know, what am I, or voiceover, forget
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. All these
forget
jobs.
it.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, it's like, and I've worked with so many voiceover artists, and it's hard to say your job's going away, but your job's going away. And I don't know how to sugarcoat it. Like 11 Labs took your job. I don't, but I'm in the industry too, and susceptible to the exact same disruption. And I'm just trying to um, figure out how to disrupt myself before I
Hmm.
get, uh, you know, axed or whatever. So it's real. I mean, there's no doubt that everything's going to change as a result of this technology, and you got to try your best to get over the fear of that into the solutions
Hmm.
around that. Where can you apply your subject matter expertise, or rather, where can you apply AI to your subject matter expertise so that you can drive some unique value somewhere, um, leveraging what you
Yeah.
what you
Yeah.
know.
And Eric, where do you see this technology in the next 5 years?
I mean, a 5-year window now is like a lifetime. It, they're talking about AGI by
Yeah.
then. They're talking about all kinds of craziness. So I would have a hard time predicting out two
Yeah.
years. Um, but there's no doubt that the pace of change is going to increase exponentially. I mean, these tools are only now starting to communicate with one another. Like I started to use Operator
Hmm.
from OpenAI this week and can watch it operate a browser on my behalf and stuff that like this is wild. Now I'm sending you off to do deep research while I walk
Yeah.
away. you know
We,
there goes like every knowledge worker. I mean, I don't know. It's going to be a wild ride and so much disruption. And in 5 years, we might need a new
I
economic
think
model.
so.
I don't
I
know.
think so. We said earlier about the how the logistics within the TV production has changed the past 10, 15 years, you know. And I can't think how AI will impact, let's say, traditional media and entertainment business. And even looking back at some movies like Avatar, like so many movies where firsthand, when you see those kind of production, you say, wow, you know, it will be interesting to see how the business will look like in 24 months or 3 years from now.
I mean, I think Avatar took 7 years and like a gazillion
Yeah.
dollars to make and needed the force of James Cameron to get it made. Like, that's so ridiculous to think that any individual is anywhere near something like that. But that's been the way. That's, there there's so much distance between the individual and being able to make a creative work like a film. But now, I mean, if I wanted to rip off Avatar, I wonder how close I could get to any. You take any 60-second piece of
Hmm.
Avatar, and let me see how close
Hmm.
I can get.
Yeah.
You know, maybe it's still miles away, maybe,
Mm.
but maybe not. And maybe the not is like still watchable. And it took me like a couple days,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know. And now millions of people can do that.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
so
In
dramatic
in
change,
in in different
Um,
languages. In yeah, it's crazy.
and that's only if individuals are doing one at a time. But wait till we all figure out how to do batches, you know? Like, I'll
Mm.
I'll be doing batch
And
productions soon,
and
you know?
one important question, Eric. Going from here, how are we going to value the quality of, let's say, production of a product of a documentary series, whatever? How?
Well, I mean, there's merit, of course. Is it just, do you like it? And that's, I think music right now is AI music is
Hmm.
testing pretty darn high in terms of likability. People are just, without knowing it's AI music, saying, "Yeah, I like this." That's already happening in music. And I think I saw someone post on LinkedIn this week that we might start labeling things like made by humans, as we do with like other craft made
Well,
things, as a representation of the craftsmanship that went into it.
yeah, yeah.
I could see that.
Well, I started, I think, 2 months ago with the tagline with the podcast that it's a medium that we talk with the real people, produced by a real, you know, because what Google they've done last year, and it's crazy. So you can create a podcast episode using AI.
Sure. Or a
And it's
book,
yeah.
or a bad piece of video, or yeah.
And Eric, what are you most excited about when it comes to the evolution of AI in the media space?
I'm most excited about individual creators having this potential, because I know from personal experience how hard it is to choose that path. And most people would never have enough opportunity to choose that path. And the idea that lots more people have that opportunity is exciting to me. I think the world will be better off from more
Hmm.
creative work by people, even if they're using AI tools. We'll figure out ways to filter out the junky content from the good stuff. The good stuff will bubble up
Yeah.
like it does. But, just that kid who's into art in the middle of nowhere, not anywhere near a big market or a mentor or anything like that, they can make work that, if nothing else, feeds their soul, but maybe also gets them opportunities they wouldn't
Mm.
otherwise get.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice you'd give storytellers looking to integrate AI into their work?
You have to have a learning based mindset, and I think that's going to be true for the next period of years. Like, one of the best things that I did was just start getting back into
Hmm.
classes, whatever kinds of classes I could get into, to try to take a kind of a always learning approach, And I think that that's helped. You know, it's kind of painful at first if you haven't taken a class in a while to get back into school mode. But
Hmm.
I found that to be really helpful. There's so many good and growing resources now. And I don't think there's anything better than ChatGPT as a thought partner. You know, if you just take whatever you're thinking about to ChatGPT and try to partner with it in thought around your idea, you will absolutely come out with an improved idea. And you can ask it to teach you how to execute that idea and follow it more or less down the road of your idea.
Great. And on that, it's time for our lightning round. Ready for speedy Q&A?
All right. Yeah, let's do it.
Favorite sports memory?
A goal I scored in high school playoffs under the lights, one-time volley. Crowd went wild. It was great.
Great. A book or a film that profoundly impacted you?
It's a Joseph Campbell book, The Art, I think it's called The Art of Living.
Hmm.
Um, Pretty sure. And I learned all about Joseph Campbell, who has had just an enormous impact on storytelling. If you're not familiar with him, I would absolutely
Hmm.
recommend. What is it? Hero with 10,000 Faces, I think, is the must read for aspiring screenwriters. I might be getting some of these book titles wrong, but Joseph Campbell, check out Joseph Campbell.
Great. What's the best advice you ever received?
Create every day.
Hmm. One tech tool you can't live without?
ChatGPT.
Not your early camera, the first one.
That's on the shelf collecting dust
Yeah,
next to the others.
fantastic. Who inspires you in the world of storytelling?
My mom. My mom is a artist and photographer
Hmm.
mainly, and so through her, I've learned a lot about how to storytell through different artistic mediums.
Great. A dream project you'd love to create?
I would love to work with some big fancy production studio and all of that traditional stuff and bring in all of this new fancy AI
Hmm.
stuff and see what we can smash together.
Hmm. Favorite place or city to visit?
New York City, all day long.
Uh,
Used to live there, miss it
Yeah.
every day.
A sports team or athlete you admire?
Lately, I've been watching a lot of Man City in the
Okay.
Premier League. Um, I love getting up and watching those guys play. Their team is stacked. I don't know, maybe Holland or Phil Foden might be a couple of my favorites at
Yeah.
the moment. You
Yeah.
know,
If you could have a dinner with a historical figure, who will it be and why?
oof, maybe like one of the great artists, like Michelangelo, or like just to learn from like one of the all-time masters and just kind of like soak up that aura and see what maybe it'd be a huge letdown. Maybe you shouldn't meet your idols or whatever. But no, you're just a regular dude. Maybe you're a jerk. I don't know.
Okay. What motivates you to keep pushing your limits?
Well, my kids and my gratitude.
Hmm.
I mean, my kids are little, and so I have this profound impulse to provide, you know. So there's that. I've got to keep doing this for a long
Hmm.
time, but I want to inspire them too. I named my AI uh, portfolio site aspiring company kind of after them. CGA Creative is all of their
Hmm.
initials, so they're very much baked into my AI plans. But also, as we talked about a little bit earlier, like I had let go of certain aspirational parts of my
Hmm.
career dream around like the biggest, most exciting stuff, like making a movie someday or writing a
Hmm.
book someday or like having an episodic series of original content. Those kinds of things, I'd kind of let go of those. Like, it's great that I'm still working in television, using creativity. I'm happy. But now it's like, man, this is all those dreams are back on the
Yeah.
table. And that is like so exciting to me. I'm grateful for
Lovely.
that.
A song or artist that gets you pumped up?
Lately, Connor Price has been doing it for me. He's a young new artist, and I like his vibe.
Mhm. One skill you're currently working on, beside of AI and
Hmm. Um, let's see. I'm keeping like a whole stack of things I need to learn. Like I just every time I think of one, I add it to this list of things I need to learn. I should have had it. I could pull it out here. Let's see. I want to learn more about LoRa
Mhm.
models, uh, because those are little image models you can make yourself, trained on 20 images approximately, and make, and then you have a one-click image model for that type of image you train, or that type of image. So the better you get at that, the better you get at production at scale. So that's on my
Mm.
priority list.
Yeah. What's your go-to way to relax after a long day or a long week?
I like to just come home and hang with my wife and kids, watch TV. My favorite is Saturday morning, putting on the Premier League and just getting my laptop and kind of, the pressure of the Monday through
Mm.
Fridays off, and I can just be a little more creative, but still have my computer there to do whatever I feel like doing. It's sort of the AI stuff is the career and hobby now, so it's a lot of fun to just come home and tinker or play with, show my kids stuff, or just relax and watch some soccer.
Great. And lastly, to our listeners, a piece of advice or wisdom on any topic.
I think the best place you can position yourself with this AI disruption is pairing it with your subject matter
Mhm.
expertise. In my case, I did it with video production, but I think wherever you have interest, passion, insight, knowledge, try to bring AI into that world where you can apply the insights you have and the knowledge and all of that. I think that's where people will really win and innovate and develop into whatever is next for them.
Great. Eric Archer, thank you so much for joining us today. It has been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you very
And
much.
before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners where they can contact you, learn more about your work, or just connect with you online?
Sure, thanks. I'm most active on LinkedIn. My name is spelled a little funny, Erich, Archer, but I'm keeping up with my work there. And I have a portfolio website, which is cgacreative.com.
Excellent. I will make sure to put all that on our episode show note. And to our listeners, I leave you with a quote from filmmaker Martin Scorsese. The most personal is the most creative. The power of storytelling, whether through AI or traditional methods, lies in our ability to connect deeply with our audience and bring meaningful stories to life. Thank you for listening to the Pre-Zero Sports Talk podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe to our show. Until next time, stay curious, inspired, and make a difference. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.